Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. This should be the final assembly video of our 6.7 engine for the 07. All the accessories are getting bolted on, motor mount, CP3, all that jazz. Everything's painted. First thing we're going to do is put our PDD stage 2.5 push rods. These are the heat treated ones that I used to run in the 05. 1800 horse, no issues. From there, we're going to go ahead and put our DDP Supermental injectors in, crossover tubes, and get our intake plenum mounted, so then we can put the rail on, and we're just going to keep hammering through it. I'm going to go ahead and get you guys set up on a time lapse, and let's get to it. Alright, so we have our new PPE rail, old lines, Exergy relief valve, DDP Supermental 6-7 tubes, push rods, all installed. Now we're going to go ahead, start working on the rear main, the adapter plate, flex plate bolts. Only trick I have for you guys, I red Loctite the back of the plate, and then I RTV the rectangular gasket, this one in to the adapter plate. So let's go get that thrown on. Alright, so we got our 14 CP3 loosely set up, some bracketry, ECM mount, starter, flex plate, bell housing, adapter plate. We got our oil getting ready to be blocked off because we're going to prime this one. Now I'm going to go ahead and put all the bridges on and all the rocker arms on. Okay, so we have our rocker arms in. Just did the lash. You guys have seen me do that a million times. The reason why we put the rockers in when we prime this oil system down here, if you don't have the rockers in, it just shoots up and out. That's the other reason why we got all of our oil galleys plugged. You can see over here, this one's plugged. Obviously you want to make sure the cam's sealed off, but I have found over time that putting the rocker box on when you go to fill this engine prevents a lot of spills. So we're gonna go ahead and put 3 gallons of PDD 14W 15W40 conventional, because it's just break-in, into here, and then we'll get ready to prime it. All right, so next up we have the oil pump. This is something Meyer made. It's a 7/16 drive out of an old pump. So what we'll do is put some assembly lube in here. You put the assembly lube in so the pump will prime itself. If you try to do this dry, you'll never get oil pressure. And believe it or not, that is a very common phone call I used to get when I worked the tech line. The second one is these oil pump bolts. Now, if you don't torque these down slowly, this oil pump does not seal to the block. So what you want to do, obviously you get them all hand tight, kind of snug it up. These torque to 18 foot-pounds. And then I will torque them. I'll do 9 foot-pounds. And then I will finish torque them. And then this is designed for a 9/16 socket, or 7/16 on a cordless drill. So we'll go ahead. And guys, I don't put any oil in the filter either. That way everything this thing gets is filtered oil. Okay, so you guys heard the drill change. The oil system is now starting to prime, and what we're looking for is oil coming out of all the rockers. Once that's done, all I do is I back the drill off just a little bit, and I do that because when you pull this oil pump off, if there's any pressure stuck behind it, it will shoot out at you. I also tilt the engine back a little bit as well. I do that so that way I don't have to worry about all the oil. Take these bolts out. You guys will see here in a minute what happens. So you kind of slowly pull the oil pump out, and there's a bunch of oil that runs out of here. Like so. Just kind of minimizes the mess. And what's really important, the oil pump seals on this boss here. So you want to make sure that's taken care of. Now we're going to go ahead. The whole system's primed. We have no leaks, which is awesome. This also helps when you go to start it. When you go starting it, it isn't dry. These common rails, I don't know what the deal is, but they always have such a hard time getting primed. And then we're just going to go ahead, pack the actual oil pump like so. Just kind of spin it. You just want to make sure you got assembly lube and all the rotor gaps. It'll kind of squeeze itself out. That's normal. And if you put this pump in dry, it'll like almost airlock itself. There we go. Sometimes that dowel will fight you a little bit. Then we'll go ahead, put all of our bolts on here. And we're gonna do the same thing that we did before. Should be a little lash in the gears. Feels about right. I'm sure there's a spec somewhere, but I've never had an issue. As long as there's a lash, that's the big thing. Usually, if there's no lash, you got it bound up on itself because you didn't get it sucked in straight. That dowel or this pump aligns right here will fight you quite a bit. So now that we got that done, we're just gonna continue on. Gonna start putting probably the harness on here, and yeah, just kind of start chugging along. So we got the fuel system plumbing done. The 14 gets fed over here, which makes life a little more interesting. So we have a return from the rail to the distribution block, return from the pump to the distribution block. We'll have the factory one there. And then the 6.7s use 2 crankcase vents. So I didn't have a Y, so I welded 3 banjo style fittings together. Went to the block drain here, so we should be good to drain it all back. I went with the 6.7 valve cover because it generally is a little easier to service. Now we got to hook up the rear fuel line to here. And what else we got to do? ECM's in. That was pretty easy. Man, I think we're getting pretty close. We got to silicone up the front end now that that's done. All right, now it's time to put our D&J cover on. So on this, there's really no secret to it. Just put a bead. There is no gasket on the common rails. It is purely RTV. Like so. Make sure your crank sleeve is in a little plastic piece. Then you just push it on, line up the holes. Guys, we got the harness rerouted. Comes out there, goes up right there. Not the best wire tuck, but we did it just like the 05. We rerouted the windshield washer fluid around this side up into there. Yeah, just got everything kind of cleaned up. We hit the cowl with the air hammer, give us a little bit more room. Now with the harness out of the way, downpipes out of the way, so we are ready to get this thing off the engine stand. We need to put our last engine mount on where the stand's obviously bolted. And then there's a few things left, but for the most part, we got the harness laid out, the fuel plumbing done. She's ready to go in. We'll put the fluid damper in once we get her installed, but progress is progress. We got all the missing bolts for our coolant bypass. One thing that I ran into that I don't normally run into is with the inverted gate T6 Steed. the coolant bypass line gets really close to this. So I just used the tab that I made and pushed that over. So we got clearance, shouldn't melt, good to go. So I'm gonna get this mess cleaned up and get ready to stab it. It is time. Everything's cleared out of the way. Big thing, guys, make sure all your engine mount areas are clear. I see stuff get cut here all the time. All of our wire tuck's done. All of our fuel plumbing's done, with the exception, obviously, of the feed and return. We have that one wire to hook up the starter wire. Once we get it on the jack, we'll put the last motor mount on. We got it chained up nice and tight. Shouldn't be an issue. We got clearance there. Okay. And yeah, this will be hopefully the last time for a little bit. I always say that, but it never ends up being true. Well, she's in. Unfortunately, I don't think that manifold is going to work with the way the wastegate's at. I don't understand why you would make an inverted steed speed and it doesn't clear a T6 charger and it doesn't allow for a wastegate. That, whatever, I guess we'll figure it out at some point, but got all the rest of it in. Hooked up the fuel lines, so that system's sealed. Got to do a few things, starter, stuff like that. But all in all, successful day. Got to pick up a thermostat, a couple other small things, but she's in. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video, getting the engine prepped, getting it installed. All in all, I had to make that one fitting, which took a little bit of time. But all in all, I think like 7-8 hours. Getting it prepped, getting it primed, getting the 6.7 valve cover to fit, and then getting it stabbed by myself, all in a day's work. Yeah, hopefully you guys like it. Drop a comment down below. Subscribe if you have not already. And as always, I will see you guys on the next one.